All right, hi everyone. My name is Missy. I'm the education lead at SmarterQ. I'm sitting down today with Rebecca Bond. She is the founder of Socially Bonded and is a experienced social media strategist and consultant. And she'll be talking a bit today about how to handle your social media during the COVID-19 crisis. So thank you so much for joining me, Rebecca.
Hi. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you give us first a little bit of background on yourself and what you do with Socially Bonded?
Okay, well, I've been in sales and marketing since I left university, so sort of somewhere between 15 and 20 years now. And about 4 years ago, I decided to specialize in social media specifically. So I did my training through Digital Mums, and through that, I was partnered with a business and created a social strategy for them, and then assessed how it went and did ads training and things like that. So once I'd completed all of that, I then started looking for clients, and so I've been working alongside social enterprises, parent-led businesses, whole host of different things since 2016. And I've recently branched out to try and include a training element so that people who can't afford to outsource their social every month could maybe afford that payment once in order to get some training themselves in order to be able to do their own social more effectively.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So along that line, as a social media consultant then, are you seeing any trends or patterns in how your clients are responding to the crisis?
Well, I think the big thing we're seeing is how many people are taking what they do online. Even people who really, it wasn't at all clear how that was even potentially going to be the case. I mean, my eldest daughter is turning 7 next month. No, she's turning 8 next week. And obviously we had a party planned for and everything, and that's not possible. So the idea then came up, well, why don't we try and do it virtually and see what we could come up with? And there are already a couple of people who are starting to take party offerings online. So that's the way, I mean, who would ever have thought of hosting a kid's birthday party without actually having all the kids in one place? So seeing that all over the place, really. My clients are taking their face-to-face training online, and they're using things like this. Other people, like the Atomicon conference that was due to happen at the end of April, again, they've turned that into a big virtual thing, and instead of one in-person day, they've taken it across the whole month, and they're doing lots of individual table talks, and they're having sessions with the influencers and things like that, and trying to make it worth as much to those who are taking part as it would have been being able to physically meet these people. So yeah, there's a lot of movement that way, really. That's what I'm seeing. And of course, there's also an awful lot of people really want the information. There's a lot of confusion around what people can and can't do now. So we're seeing a lot of my clients and a lot of other businesses bringing in their accountants and their solicitors and getting them to host live Q&As so that people can go to them to get the information they need, and that all helps position a business as a thought leader.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you say you're adjusting the social media strategies for your clients? Is there anything you're particularly focused on?
I would say that the main thing is we've had to remove an awful lot of what we had planned to do. So we were just in the process anyway of starting to come up with new strategies for the financial year and talking about where we wanted to focus efforts. Yeah. But where, for example, in the arts world, we were going to be talking an awful lot about diversity and things like that. Now the main pressing issue for people is how they are going to keep their head above water until the crisis dies down. So a lot of the content that we planned just suddenly seemed a bit insensitive to people's situations. So we've had to withdraw an awful lot, particularly articles that were curated from other sources. Before the pandemic, people they quite enjoyed a grumble on social media. Yeah. So anything that got people to have a little bit of a rant and get on their soapbox always did really, really well. But now, even more than beforehand, there's a real trend for positive news. People really want to hear the good stuff that's happening, and they want to celebrate the things that people are doing to try and help others. So there's now quite a trend for social media showing community and comradeship and giving people a window back into what they remember being the real world. I think that more than ever now, it's important that strategies focus on letting your customers know that you get who they are and you get the situation that they're in. You understand that they're scared, and that you try and change your offering slightly and change your tone on social to meet that need from your customers.
Right. Yeah, it's just about understanding who your customer is and explaining to
Yeah,
them.
I mean, that's always been a really key part of any good marketing strategy. If you don't get who your customers are, you can't possibly approach them in any way that will make them want to do business with you. But even more so now, people don't want to be approached by someone who's marketing an in-person event at a time when you're not allowed to go and meet anybody. So you
Right.
need to, it's like, you know, judge the tone and give the people the kind of reassurance and information that they're needing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So what advice would you have for anyone working in freelance social media who might be a little bit anxious about their work now and losing clients, or how to maintain and keep their clients?
Yeah, there are quite a lot of people who obviously they're saying their hours are being cut back, that their clients aren't wanting to invest as much in the marketing. And really, I suppose it's you know, hold tight, try not to let it overwhelm you. There is obviously a lot of support in the UK coming from the government. There's the self-employed scheme where they will pay you every month 80% of what your profits would normally have been. And I know that isn't reaching everybody, unfortunately. Those who've set up too recently, or those who are limited companies, they're slightly on the outside of that. So it's really a case of educate yourself about what's out there in terms of support for you, in terms of that safety net, and make sure that you're not one of the people who's going to fall through the cracks just because you didn't know that you could apply for XYZ. But in terms of work for social media managers, there are businesses out there that are really booming right now. And there are industries that potentially before didn't need social media, and now it's their only way to speak to their customers. So there is still a lot of opportunity for people like myself to help businesses through the pandemic. But as with before, it's about proving your worth. So social media usage is up at like 30% at the moment. That's how much more activity we're seeing going on social. People are spending much longer on there. They're checking their accounts much more often. They're turning their notifications back on for things. So now is really the time to be convincing people that they need to ramp up their marketing, so that they're in the most visible place possible when people are ready to start venturing back out and spending their money again. So the crisis will be over one day. It will be over one day. And the businesses that have invested that time to really build the trust with their communities through social are the ones that are going to come out the other side quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you think the crisis will impact the future of work? Do you think we'll all embrace remote work more? Is Zoom going to become a feature of everybody's normal workday?
Oh, I hope so. I certainly hope so. I mean, we're still hearing reports of bosses now that are unwilling to let their staff home work, but that position's really becoming more and more untenable every single day. And people who have laid their workforce off rather than furloughing them, I think they'll probably find themselves hauled before tribunals when this is over, because there's not really a reason to do it. But I think we will see a lot of people who, in the months prior to this, maybe requested a flexi working arrangement that their boss turned down, saying it wasn't in the business interest, that they couldn't facilitate home working. All of a sudden, all of these processes and these systems and these apps are now in place, and there really isn't going to be much argument to turn that down now. So I think an awful lot of people will be able to put in those requests and say, actually, I worked from home 5 days a week for the last 3 months, so why would it be a problem if I do it 1 or 2 days a week going forwards? I think there should be that change and that adapting. Apart from anything else, there's a huge saving for businesses in terms of costs, and for the whole world in terms of the climate. If you think of all the people who fly to another country just for an afternoon meeting, then they've got the flight cost and potentially 2 nights in a hotel, not to mention the carbon monoxide that's emitted from all of that. And all of those meetings are now happening online. So maybe in the future, people will think of doing a face-to-face meeting online like this first, rather than hopping on a plane. And even the Prime Minister's proving that you can do that job from home, even if he does give away all of his Zoom IDs on his screenshots.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that some jobs that people have always been told you can't do this from home are now
Yeah.
suddenly at home and it's functioning, and they're building those processes in place to be able to make it more normal and feasible during this time.
Yeah. I think it just seemed like such a big, massive task to so many people. They were like, well, we're not set up with a system where our internal servers can be accessed from externally. But now all of that's had to be put in place, and that's what businesses have been doing for the last 2-3 weeks. So in a way, it would make absolutely no sense to not keep using them going forward, because they've made all that investment now. People have been bought office furniture to have at home. So what's going to happen to all of that if they start saying, no, you can't work at home? That would be mad.
They've already kind of gotten over that first hurdle of trying it.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for working at home, remote working, any tools or strategies or way to schedule and plan your day?
Have really good broadband. Really good broadband. That's the first one. When I started, I had a computer that was only about 3 or 4 years old, and I just had regular internet. And I must have spent 3 hours every day just going on, just waiting for stuff to load, waiting to the screen to stop unfreezing. So yeah, invest in a reasonably fast computer, one that's got a solid state hard drive, so you don't have to wait for things to start up, and have good fast internet that works. Then make sure you've got reasonably comfy office chair and big size desk so you can spread your papers out and have your 3 or 4 cups of tea around. So make sure where you're working is conducive to work. Don't choose somewhere like the kitchen breakfast bar to try and work, because that doesn't happen. The kids just will be in your ear all the time trying to get you to do something else. So make sure it's somewhere you could close the door to, because the hardest thing with working from home is separating when you're at work from when you're not at work. So if you can physically close the door, if you've got a garage or a shed that you can set up in, somewhere where you can feel that you have left work and you're now back at home, that's really good for your mental health. And then I think tool-wise, there's all sorts of stuff out there. I read about something called Lark this morning, which seems to be quite a new system that's trying to be video conferencing and communication and project management all in once, and that's completely free at the moment, so that's worth checking out. And then Trello, Slack, something like Office Live, Office 365, all of those sorts of things. They're all really good, because you still need to be able to communicate in real time and have access to the same documents and be able to assign tasks and deadlines. And emails they just don't really cut it. You end up with 16 emails going back and forth, all about the same sort of thing between lots of different people, and then everyone's not on the same page, and the overwhelm when your email inbox is constantly pinging is just definitely use some kind of tools where you can all talk together at the same time as a group.
So in using, I know you're a user of SmarterQ. Do you have any tips on how to use SmarterQ during the COVID-19 crisis to be able to, I don't know, adjust your strategy quickly or pivot or keep an eye on what's happening?
Yeah, well, SmarterQ is amazing. I love SmarterQ.
I'm glad
and I'm not just saying that. All the training I do, I always recommend SmarterQ as my favorite scheduling tool. And the new editions that have just come out, the Engage and the Inbox, they're both just making it even better, basically. The evergreen recycling was the thing that brought me to it in the first place. I used to use another very well-known scheduling tool, and I would have to input every single tweet in every single time. So like if I needed to share something 5 or 6 times, I'd have to write each one individually. Whereas with SmarterQ, I just write it once, make a couple of small variations, or put in 2 images that it can change around, and that's it done. So that's literally a fifth of the time that I used to spend. It genuinely saved me just hours. It used to take me 5 days a month to schedule the 5 accounts that for my client that I had at the time, and now it's 2 days a month. It's like 5 hours a week. So it was a really significant drop. A really huge saving time. And in terms of being able to switch quickly, it's so easy to be able to just pause a queue. So and just set up another one. So every time we have a campaign, we have a campaign queue that we just turn it on and off as and when we need it, and we can put content in and out. So if you've got all your different content streams set up, you can just pause the ones that are now going to be relevant. You could pause your self-promotional ones, or whichever you wanted to do. It's so simple. And then you can use the seasonal stuff as well. So it's really easy to switch between what you're putting out there and to turn things off and on as and when you need it. So simple, so simple. So yeah, there's nothing that I don't love about it now, and I like that I can find content so easily through it, and now that you can engage in it, you don't need to be anywhere else. You just do it all within there. It's fantastic. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. So how have you been using the new Engage feature in Social Inbox?
I haven't used Social Inbox yet. I only saw it when I logged in a couple of days ago.
It was released a couple of days ago anyway, so it's brand new.
Yeah. So that one I've still got to test out. But I'm guessing it would be just, instead of having to log into Twitter to read my messages, I'll be able to access them straight there. So it means I'm less likely to miss them. But the Engage one's great because it means that I can be on SmarterQ, and I can see things that are coming through, comments to us, and it's so easy to search for relevant conversations. So it's really great in terms of social listening as well, that I can go out and just put in keywords or look for specific accounts, and then retweet straight from there. And then obviously it means that my stats stay in one place too. So yeah, found it really good.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. So do you think that social media, the way that we do social media and strategies moving forward, will kind of keep some of the impact that COVID-19 has had? Maybe you think we'll be more focused on video moving forward, or do you think brands will start, I don't know, acting in a different way based on what we've learned during this time?
Not sure, because a lot of people, like normal everyday people, not people running a business page, they're not using social in a different way. They're just using it more often. So I don't think there's going to be a massive shift in terms of how social media is used. But I think for a business owner, as you say, people are using video more. They're going live a lot more often, particularly if they have some content that can support parents who are working at home and trying to teach at home at the same time. So there's a lot of live content that goes on. But in a strange way, if anything, I think that the fact there are so many people doing that is exposing quite the limitations of the systems. So, for example, if you try and set up a live from your business page, for quite a long time it was possible to be able to invite in another person to the live, so not just watch it but to actually be their face on the screen. And I'm getting quite a few people coming to me saying, I can't find how to do this, where is it? And it just seems to have vanished for no apparent reason. So that obviously is trickier. If you wanted, like if we were wanting to be doing this on live, we'd have to be trying to link Zoom into Facebook or use Click Meeting or something like that. We couldn't do this with both of us visible on Facebook at the moment. And then there's been a lot of issues, people watching some of the programs for home editing, and they're on the desktop because obviously it's a much bigger screen, and it just keeps freezing, it gets out of sync, it puts people off. Whereas when they're watching it on their mobile, it's much better for some strange reason. So I think that if anything, we might actually see YouTube get something of a renaissance. And it's obviously had its market share cut a bit with other social platforms taking on video so much. But I think that a lot of people are finding it easier to access some of this live content through YouTube Live, especially if it's designed for kids, because they can't have their own Facebook account. So parents are having to log them in via theirs, which is a bit like, just don't go answering any of my comments, okay? So if they broadcast on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time, I always choose the YouTube one. Apart from anything else, our smart TV has a YouTube app, so I can very quickly pull it up on the big TV, and then it's far easier to do Joe Wicks's exercises to a big TV than trying to see it on the iPad.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I know I've been there trying to figure out what's going on my phone and then wanting to bring it
Yeah.
up on my TV to see more.
So yeah, I think we might see YouTube becoming a bit more important. Sort of got a bit forgotten about by social media managers, but I think it could start to come back.
Do you have any tips for people who are just getting into video or are nervous about doing video, going live, recording things?
I'd say just do it. What's the worst that could happen at the end of the day? And if you're really, really nervous, then don't go live. Do it pre-recorded, because then you can just edit it, you know. I'd say with video, there are obviously things to remember. So like the vast majority of people watch video on social media with the sound off. So subtitling is really important.
Yeah.
Then make sure you've got a decent video editor. There are lots of really good free ones. So if you've got Apple software, then iMovie. And I use a company called Movavi. I really like them for my PC. And I have an app for that as well on my phone. And just remember, people aren't looking for perfection these days anymore. It's not all about the perfect Instagram thing. People are wanting something more real and more authentic, something which reminds them of themselves. So don't worry if you fluff your lines, just laugh it off and keep going.
Yeah, it's more important to just get the content out there and engage with people rather than to make sure it's absolutely perfect to a T.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Rebecca. If anyone would like to get in touch with you for any extra advice, or if they've got questions about anything we've talked about today, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
I'm probably on Facebook most, so I've got a page on there, Socially Bonded. I am also on Twitter and on LinkedIn. LinkedIn would just be me. You'd have to search for Rebecca Bond. I think it's Rebecca Bond 2 is my URL. And Twitter's just at Socially Bonded as well. So any of those three platforms I'm on pretty regularly. Or otherwise you can just email me at rebecca@sociallybonded.com. Everything is sociallybonded.com, so
good branding.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and we really appreciate sitting down today.
It's been good to talk to you. Thank you.